Hold on to your halos. The International House of Prayer in Kansas City is serving up more twists and turns than a heavenly labyrinth. Mike Bickle, the founder, faces serious allegations, including sexual immorality. Leaders hired a new law firm for an impartial examination. Bickle is accused of using spiritual authority for unholy manipulation. So scandalous. It's a battle between accusers and accused, with the fate of heavenly leadership hanging in the balance. Stay tuned for the next episode of Heavenly Havoc. Can I get an amen or a bucket of celestial popcorn? This story is from the Church and Ministry News by Daniel Villarreal on November 4th, 2023, and Church and Ministry News by Leonardo Blair on November 8th, 2023. Now, before we dive into this one, I think it's important to point out here that there hasn't been any criminal charges filed in this case, or at least I didn't see any mentioned in the article. Also, as a fan of another famous international house of things that start with P, I resent that this group is piggybacking on the crispy bacon and delicious fluffy goodness of others. Having said that, this article gives me a little bit of cautious optimism, especially when we consider that many of these allegations are going to be well beyond the statute of limitations. And so the legal obligation for this church organization to follow up on these things is not necessarily so clear. Obviously, there's a moral obligation, an ethical obligation, and possibly even a professional obligation for them to do this. And so I think it's good that there's at least a portion of this organization that is doing a little bit of self-policing. The founding IHOPCA, I guess that's the acronym there, IHOPCA, the International House of Prayer for Kansas City. Their founding member, Dwayne Roberts, former IHOPCA executive Brian Kim, and former pastor West Martin, they released a joint statement about the allegations. They said, without going into details to protect the privacy of the victims' identities, we have found these allegations of clergy sexual abuse by Mike Bickle to be credible and long-standing. The credibility of these allegations is not based on any one experience or any one victim, but on the collective and corroborating testimony of the experiences of several victims. So there at least appears to be some portion of this organization that's taking a thoughtful approach and a victim's first approach. Infidel, what was your thoughts on this?
Well, when I first read it and read about sexual immorality by, with multiple women, it sounded like Mike got caught with more than his hand in the cookie jar. And, normally this is something I really wouldn't want to pay attention to. It'd be his problem. And of course, if there were some ethical issues, that as well, but not mine. But, we do find a special case here. I mean, we could cue the familiar music. I think we all know this well. The song, he plays the moral authority while behaving in a way that's completely contradictory. It's just an example of this insidious nature that, we see time and again. He dismisses it as, Satan's tactics are coming up against him in a recent sermon about these accusations. But he's done this before. He's talked about the gay marriage agenda and how they're being rooted in the depths of hell. Blaming the devil's work for him in the past, I think we're just seeing more of the same. But it does really ring true to what type of character we're talking about here when, as you mentioned, the not House of Pancakes themselves recognizing that there were some credible things that required them to look, and him just stonewalling them. It's really not a good look and a good reflection on him at all. Recently, but it did remind me that another story I read about a pastor who was exposed by a right-wing organization as dressing up in women's clothes. His wife knew. He told the truth. He didn't have a history of anti-LGBTQ, and he was open about it, apologized, even though, I don't think the man had anything to apologize for, but it drove him to take his life. Now, I look at this guy and I don't feel the type of sympathy I did for that gentleman and his family, because this guy has made a career on hurting other people. It's been his moneymaker, is to insult, dehumanize people, to try to create a wedge between people and their families. This guy is getting a taste of his own medicine. And, to get religious and quote the Bible, because, I know people like him enjoy that sort of thing. Whatever a man soweth, that also shall he reap. I can only hope that Bickle gets half of what he deserves. Blatant, what do you got?
I just want to echo what both of you guys have actually already said. First of all, how dare these people sully the good name of IHOP? A hefty bacon-filled omelet and a buttery stack of fluffy pancakes is all I want associated with that acronym at any time. But on to the actual issue here. According to this article, like Scott said, several members, including one of the founders, put out a statement after they had taken some action. But within that statement, they actually said that they attempted to speak with Bickle directly before anything in the spirit of Matthew 18, 15, 17. And that passage reads as follows for those that don't know. If your brother sins against you, go to him, tell him his fault. Between you and him alone, if he listens to you, you have gained a brother. But if he does not listen, take one or two along with you, that every charge may be established by the evidence of 2 or 3 witnesses. If he refuses to listen to them, tell it to the church. And if he refuses to listen to even the church, let him be as a Gentile and a tax collector. Taxes are bad. The Bible said so. Anyway, so without me even getting into the whole Gentile,
Jesus got mad about them.
A whole nother thing. He did. Jesus don't like that. But without me getting into all that, this should give anybody reading the Bible questions as to why the fuck they care what the Bible says. Because look at the passage on its face and understand that these people really thought that this was something to put into that statement as something like, yeah, we did it. Look at the actual thing. It says if he sins against your brother, if your brother sins against you, whatever it says. First of all, he allegedly committed a horrible crime against multiple people whose lives have been forever changed as a result. That's not a sin against you, brother. Nobody gives a shit about you, brother. So, and then second, if he doesn't listen to you, take it to the church. No, dude, we live in a time with paved roads and motorized vehicles. Right. Most importantly, we have laws. I don't give a damn what the pastor has to say about this. Don't take it to the church. I will say, their actual reaction to it, as far as removing him from his position eventually and showing public support for the alleged victims, that's refreshing. I wasn't expecting to read that, so that's refreshing. But just like Infidel was saying, looking at Bickle's history, I'm not shocked by what we're seeing here, because I've said it before and I'll say it again. The loudest, angriest voices in most religious sects are usually screaming at themselves. This man made a living off screaming about sexual depravity. I am not at all shocked to find out he's a sexual deviant. It's par for the course.
Okay,
that's
amen.
all I got to say about that.
Mm-hmm. So, oh no. Oh dear, I am shocked that another pastor accused of sexual assault and abuse is now being found out and shouted against anti-queer. It was anti-queer as well. It must be Wednesday because it happens over and over and over again. And I was kind of laughing because when the International House of Pastors, Kansas City, whatever. I don't fucking care. I don't claim that they're
not pancakes, unfortunately.
That's all we know.
Not pancakes. It's not. It's poo poo. So, and they're shocked and appalled when these things. They say the same thing over and over again. For some reason, people in churches think that pastors and their leaders are somehow above reproach. They can't do anything wrong. He was such a good person, and he was my spiritual leader. And, he led the congregation in such a wonderful way, blah, blah, blah. And then you find out, one, that they hate preach. And then two, they're also the ones doing the actual abuse to actual people. But so I'm really kind of tired of this hypocrisy and people holding these pastors up as like models of the community and all this type of crap. Like it's disgusting because it always comes out. It always does. Especially in the modern era where you can't really hide anymore. People can look up information. They can get in touch with resources, and also they're not living in bubbles. And if enough people start talking to each other and be like, "Oh, he did that to me too," and there's strength in numbers, you're going to be found out. So I'm just kind of over like, people pretending like this is not something that, only, deviants do, whoever they are. Well, they're queer people, of course. So, that's a lot.
It's right there in black and white in the Bible, Helen.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I guess I have to read my Bible.
Obviously.
Anyway, obviously, duh. And my concern, you mentioned if you go to someone and they confess their sin, they're your brother, and then deny it. But the thing is, though, like that's also used as an excuse to hide information to authorities. And I know that examples like the Jehovah's Witnesses have used that particular passage to stop people from going forward and the elders to go to authorities. Always handle it within the church. And I'm glad that with the stipulations, the date thing, like I'm losing the phrase. I'm glad that they're actually like going to look at what actually happened, even though the time has passed and gone. Why can't I not remember the phrase for that? Anyway, never mind. I'm moving on. I'm going to go catch up my brain. I'm bringing this to Scott. Statute of limitations. Thank you. Other
there
parts
we
of
go.
my brain.
All right.
There we go. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Anyway, I'm just mad, I guess. Okay, Scott, go ahead. Take it away from me and I'll regain my professional composure for this show.
Well, Helen, you were just talking about how they're putting the pastor up on a pedestal, and that's a pretty common thing. BB and Infidel earlier were talking about how this is this guy's MO, right? This is his approach. This is nothing new, and it shouldn't be anything that's surprising. It was kind of horrifying reading about the way that this Bickle guy is presenting himself. This was from the article here. Bickle seemed to make veiled references to his accusers during a sermon he delivered last Sunday. Why is he still giving sermons? Well, I want to know. During the sermon, he said, Satan's most effective weapon in the end times is accusation, adding whispered innuendo into hostile accusations that destroy lives and relationships. The church is approaching the most glorious and challenging hour in history with the dragon, the black horse, breathing on many to accuse and betray each other. Okay, he's pulling words and phrases directly out of the Bible, right? Talking to a bunch of people who hold this Bible to be sacred, and their what is it? The book in basic instructions before leaving Earth, right? This is the foundational document. So he's ripping words right out of there and holding them up and saying, like you were saying, Helen, if you don't go along with this, you're a bad person. You're a bad Christian. If you want to be a good Christian, you should follow what it says. You should obey what it says. You should watch out for what it says. He's using this tool because he's in that position up on the pedestal. He's using it and it's hard. I'm not inside the guy's mind, but it's hard for me to imagine that it's not intentional, that he doesn't know what he's doing. Obviously, it's possible that he's a true believer and thinks and is convinced that he's on the road to the righteous, and everything that he's doing is justified, and that he's a victim. I don't know. Maybe it's that skeptic sense again. I think he doesn't even have the guts to say the devil made him do it. It's not like he's saying, oh, the devil made me do it. He's saying the devil made the accusers make shit up. That's what he's saying. He's saying they are victims of the devil. And that's just cowardice upon cowardice. And the frustrating with that the most frustrating part about that is that it works, is that when he does it, it works. We've talked in earlier segments about how people try to interpret events to match their pre-existing beliefs. They're taking advantage of that from that privileged position on that pedestal. They can even revise history. We talked about that before. We've seen many cases where this works. And so, I have no doubt that it's gonna continue to work. I don't expect anything will come out of this investigation. It said in the article that they already switched. They started out with one law firm and switched to another law firm. Okay, well, I'm not sure what happened there. Well, I think I have suspicions about what happened there. I should leave the opening or the possibility that I'm wrong about this, but I don't know. I'm a math teacher. I see 1 and a plus and a 1. I know what should follow that. And what should follow that is Infidel. What's your take on it? Ooh, that was a smooth one right there.
Sometimes you got to shop around for the right solution, and that could very well be they're just shopping around for the solution that fits them.
Are they being boogers? Is that what you're saying? They're trying to find the right way, the right shade of lipstick to put on this pig?
Pretty much. Now, one of the things that Blatant mentioned earlier, that growing up as a pastor's son, I have to agree. My dad didn't do this, but sat through a lot of other ones, and you should be able to guess what somebody's porn preferences is just by what they preach against. Because it's like, oh, okay, they like this. All right. What else? Because that's almost what it feels like, because you just wait long enough and you're going to find out about how whatever they railed about so often is going to be what they're caught doing. So this guy, I'm waiting to see what all comes out on him. And the truth is, though, is I was happy to see that they at least acknowledged that he was stonewalling them from the beginning, because that's got to count for something.
Right.
Because like I mentioned, that previous guy, straightforward, honest, tell the truth. And you know what? We all do things. Each one of the 4 of us may do things and experience things that the other ones would not be willing to experience or do. Not that they think it's even right or wrong, but that's just not part of who you are. But when you try to make that something else and point the finger towards other people for what you view as your own shortcomings, that is a shortcoming. Whether what you did or not is perfectly cool or not in my book, when you make somebody else look like an asshole because of what you're trying to hide for yourself, that makes you that person. Whether what you did is perfectly normal is out the window. So he's already demonstrated the fact that, yes, once again, another thing that Scott, you brought up, have you ever noticed that the people that preach obedience are not obedient people? Boy, they love to tell everybody else about obedience. Yeah, I bet he does want everybody else to be obedient. Obey.
So shocking.
Just like that guy who said in the Bible, the meek shall inherit the earth. That was not a meek motherfucker. Let me just let you know now. Just sorry for the spoiler. Now, with that in mind, I really hope
by the way.
So, Blatant, where you want to take this?
I really want to someday live in a world where people that espouse all this bullcrap about the Bible and what it means and what it says and how you should live by it actually do that them damn selves. That would be awesome. That would be great for people to stop pointing and just start doing the shit that they believe that I'm supposed to be doing. I guarantee you, just like we've been saying, the dudes that's screaming all this shit, this is what they're doing. So like the loudest voice in the room is the motherfucker you should be looking at as usual. That's really all I've got to say about that. Just actually follow your damn book.
Yeah. By your fruits, they will know you, right? Is that how it goes? By your, these are some pretty nasty fruits that I'm seeing
You know what's crazy? Yeah, these
are
the
not
fruits
figs
that I usually know them by. Yeah. When I see these type of fruits, it's like, I bet he's one of them. Like, it's very accurate. The Bible got that one right.
It's always the don't thou protest too much.
Right.
You know, and all the deflection tactics that they do. It's, you know, I'm always like, oh, I'm like, they're doing some shit. They're doing some shit. And I also want to point out that I'm kind of a little bit frustrated with the congregation because they were like grieving, you know, the fact that, you know, they for Bickle and, you know, what it was doing to the congregation. And I'm like, what about the victims? I am sorry. I am sorry that this little wrinkle in your like holy plan came undone. And now you're dealing with the consequences and your congregation is grieving. And I'm just in there like, what about the victims? And what they're probably going to do is give thoughts and prayers, which will do about the same thing when we do that when it comes to school shootings. So, you know, I have feelings. I do. And I think that all of you out there, that is, when you start hearing a preacher rail against, you know, adulterers, queer people, poor people, you know, whatever it is, just make sure that you have your skeptic brain on, because I guarantee they're doing some shit and they're trying to push that crap onto somebody else. So on that note, I'm going to wrap this up. And I suggest that if you want to learn about more people doing some crap and some positive things that is not crap, please consider clicking on the video above. Do the thing.